the HR part of the job is the hardest part of my work. It is by far the hardest part of my work. Give me 100 classes, but don't give me like 100 people to manage.
Lots of entrepreneurs learn this the hard way. They think like, how hard can it be to manage people? Like, I'll just tell them what to do and off they go, they'll do it.
I find it so difficult to understand people who say like, it's just business, don't take it personally. It's like, no dude, it's all personal.
A lot of people say, oh, I hire for potential. But the potential that you see is what you have a vision for that person.
Correct.
Have you engaged that person to see if that's the potential they want to work on?
She actually came around with her CV on a printed piece of paper, knocking on doors in that building, saying like, are you guys looking for a receptionist or an admin person? Today she's the COO of the business. It is the thing I wake up for every morning.
Yeah.
It is the thing I obsess about a little too much. It is my why.
Welcome back to episode 5 of season 3 of the HR Sisters podcast. Today's guest, Malavika Varadhan, has spent her entire career mastering the one thing that holds every team and every relationship together, the ability to truly connect with people. So if you've lived in Dubai for any length of time, there's a good chance you've already heard her voice. Malavika has spent around 14 years on the radio as one of the best-known RJs on The Breakfast Show on City 1016. But Malavika is more than just a radio name. She's a writer, a theatre actor, a TEDx speaker, and an entrepreneur. In fact, her TEDx talk, 7 Ways to Make a Conversation with Anyone, has over 28 million views on YouTube. But the part that we want to dig in today is what came next. Because since 2019, Malavika has been the managing director of the Hive, a performance and communication space built around theatre, storytelling, and public speaking, running workshops and programs for both adults and children. She's built the team, the systems, and the culture behind it. So this conversation is about Malavika the leader, how she built the Hive, the people decisions behind it, and what she's learned about building a business that lasts. So let's get started. Welcome to the HR Sisters podcast. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me. Thank you very much for having me.
You're so very welcome. I have to say, with your TEDx video having 28 million views, this is a bit of a pressure to start correctly. So we keep up to your high standards.
It's okay. It's really, I don't even check it. I don't check it that much anymore. I honestly think it's a fluke. For the longest time, I thought there was a problem with YouTube. I was like, surely that's not me. Like,
So we'll use this as a flex for like HR Sisters now have a TEDx
speaker on the podcast, right? Like, how good are we? we'll take the flex, Malavika.
We'll take anything, any bragging rights.
So I'm sure like most of the podcasts or most of your conversations are around your like radio journey or, like the exciting stuff that you do at the Hive.
Yeah.
But a lot of what you actually do at the Hive is not only about just the offering itself. It's the team behind it that makes everything come alive.
Absolutely.
Right? And so that's what we want to focus today's conversation on is the wind beneath your wings and how your journey as an employer, jumping from, being on the radio to being an employer and buying a business and what that journey has what turned out to be.
Absolutely. Let's dive in. This is so exciting.
From the start.
Yeah. So I think the first question is, why did you choose to even buy a business?
Naivety.
Great answer.
You know what? I had just gotten to a point in radio where I felt like, okay, it's the same thing, but I'm doing the same thing over and over again, right? And I don't want to take away what being on a radio station can give you because it's a tremendously privileged position. You're making a fair bit of money. You have more than that, the fame, which means you can walk into rooms and people recognize you. There is no company, there is no brand, there is no organization, there is no event that I have not been a part of in some shape or form. Or forget 6 degrees of separation, 2 degrees of separation.
Yeah.
Right? Any powerful name in the country was one phone call away. So that was amazing. But I just felt like the work itself was it had gotten to a point where I was like, okay, but how much more excited can I be about Salman Khan? Like, I'm kind of over it. Like, I want to be doing something more.
Yeah.
So I went through a period, much like when you were talking about your journey, I went through a period where I very quietly applied for some bizarre jobs, including like
Being a librarian
being
in
a
the
librarian in the
Maldives.
Maldives. Yeah. I was like, okay, like I'll take it. Could be a nice wild life. And I think I was just trying to escape this kind of setup that I had bought the props and costumes for. But my heart was not entirely in the role.
Yeah.
And that's when a friend of mine decided that they were going to move to Canada. And I had been teaching part-time at the Hive. I used to kind of drop in and do drama classes every once in a bit. The organization was much smaller, so its demands were a lot less.
Yeah.
And I just did it mostly because I loved the kids and I loved being part of the theatrical productions. And when they said they were going out, I was like, okay, but who are you going to sell to? Maybe I should try.
Yeah.
And that's where it all began. So it wasn't really like I wanted to become an entrepreneur. I just wanted to run the Hive. I still don't think I want to be an entrepreneur.
Yeah. You're still figuring out what you want to do. Like, like all of us, we're still figuring out what we want to do when we grow up, right?
You know, the odd thing is that I remember speaking to a very powerful person in the organization who was trying to tell me not to quit my breakfast show role. And I could not get him to see why this was not just another company. I'm not selling curtains or carpets or...
Not that anything is wrong with selling carpet.
Yeah, but I mean, these are children.
Yeah.
Like, this is... I can't explain to you why my heart needs to be there. My priorities need to be there.
Yeah.
This is not just something where I can kind of remotely manage this business and have a side hustle going and, check the profit and loss statements at the end of the quarter. It's not that. It's something that has a lot of heart.
It's like a purpose that you are drawn to almost.
Absolutely. Yeah, it is my purpose. It is the thing I wake up for every morning.
Yeah.
It is the thing I obsess about a little too much, even if I admit it myself. It is my why, and I think if you can't have radio had all of the other things, but the why was starting to sag a little bit. And I think Hive didn't have any of the other things, but it had a really strong why.
Yeah.
And I feel if you've got a good why, then you can build the rest of it.
Yeah. You can explain, like, you can talk to someone about profit and numbers, but you can't quantify fulfillment.
Yeah.
And when you feel fulfilled, there's nothing like it, right?
Yeah.
Like,
and it doesn't have to make sense for anyone else except you. I still don't think anyone gets, like, last weekend we had a fantastic show of a play and I was just standing in the back and I was jumping up and down. It was like India winning the World Cup or something. Like, that's how people react, this is my team, they did it. I'm like, I'm in tears, I'm jumping up and down, and no one gets it. They're like, relax, it's a bunch of 10-year-olds doing a play. Why are you taking it so seriously? But it makes sense to me, and that's all that matters, is that it makes sense to me.
It's like a standing ovation to your own audience in some ways, right?
yeah.
No one needs to understand as long as you yourself understand. You applaud yourself. Why not?
Yeah. But behind that, right, is the team. Again, going back to that.
Oh, absolutely.
What was the first kind of like, oh, I have a team and I need to manage them moment that you had, if you had it?
Oh, absolutely. So when we bought the business over, there was only one member on the team who kind of came from the old management to the new management, right? So when the buyover happened, and that's Jen. She started out and she actually came around with her CV on a printed piece of paper, knocking on doors in that Bardabai building, saying like, are you guys looking for a receptionist or an admin person? And she kind of landed this role. And when I took over the company in 2019, she was doing a little bit of small admin work. She would manage a few invoices. Today, she's the CEO of the business.
Right.
And she is by far one of the strongest women I know. She's a sister and she's really my family. She's really my family. I think when I'm sick, when I'm crying, when I'm upset, she's the one whose hand I hold, And I think that's an amazing journey to have. So she was number one. And then we had our first teacher join us, Alba, who spent a few years with us and then decided to move back home to India to live a dream life by the river and by the lake and build this beautiful house. So those were hard things, like saying goodbye to the first person I put my trust in was almost like going through a breakup. It was like the hardest thing in the world,
How did you deal with it?
Badly.
That's how how you learn though, right?
No, I mean, it was heartbreaking. I don't think anyone can really quantify what that feels like, because you feel like, but we built this together, this is our home, we laid the bricks down, and you can't go now, like there's so much work to be done.
Yeah.
And it's so emotional, and I find it so difficult to understand people who say like it's just business, don't take it personally. It's like, no dude, it's all personal.
Yeah, it is.
This whole thing is personal.
Yeah.
So
That's so true. But I loved, Jen's journey, coming from knocking the door to being the COO. That, like, walk us through that, because those are stories that you don't hear.
Yeah. And I wish, actually, she is deserving of a podcast episode much, much more than I am. So she started out with admin roles and sales tasks, smaller sort of things. And then when I took over, I was able to have opening conversations with customers, parents in our case, or I was able to interact with the children and convince them of why the product was important.
Yeah.
But she was the one who was kind of running all the things back end, right? So making the sale and closing the sale and having conversations with parents about when class was going to happen and schedules and this and that. And over time, it grew and it grew and it grew. It moved from that to having administrative roles, then having a sales team in place, having a logistics and a facilities team in place. And it grew and it grew and it grew. And now she manages and leads more than half the company.
And so what did you see in her when she knocked on the door that you decided to give her a chance and say, okay, or was it just that you needed someone?
Jen is a person who has such tremendous loyalty, and she has this heart which is just like, she is the moral North Star. Right? And she's always thinking about what is fair and what is right. And she will recheck and check things over and over again. Her sense of integrity is like next level.
Yeah.
I've never had to worry about, whether she's said the right thing or whether it's the truth or trust, or the trust is so strong.
Yeah.
And I think that is something that for me is just, you can't break that.
Yeah, I think companies would call these values, right? These values that you that you can't necessarily, again, quantify, but you have it or you don't.
Yeah.
And ultimately, and again, this has been the running theme of this entire season. Everyone has talked about finding talent where they care less about the skill, but more about the attitude, openness to learn, being flexible, and all of that makes for the best employees.
Yeah.
It's like the conclusion of every episode of podcast that we did is we come to that conclusion. Like, skills you can train, attitude and trust is what you invest in.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely.
We were talking earlier about, going from like the 10-person organization to, the 10-person family environment to a 20-person organization. And that requires a mindset shift, a structural shift. Your infrastructure to support the 20-person organization shifts as well, right? Mm-hmm. Would you mind walking us through how that worked out for you, and what having the support right now that you do, and how has that impacted the business?
Hi there, it's me interrupting myself again. The instinct that you're too small for HR is honestly completely understandable, but it's also where it quietly catches entrepreneurs out. Here's the math nobody lays out. A big company can have a people issue, a rough exit, a dispute, a costly wrong hire, and absorb it. They have the buffer, the legal team, and the cushion. A 15-person business doesn't. So one thing going sideways isn't just a line item, it's real money and real disruption felt straight away across the business. The event is the same size, but your ability to absorb it isn't. That's the bit that too small to bother feeling gets backwards. The real truth is this. Smaller team size also means higher stakes per mistake because there's nothing underneath to catch the fall. So if you want to ensure your business is well protected but unsure what HR support you actually need, we'd love to help. Check out the show notes for a link to book a call with us. No commitment, just a conversation. And now, let's get back to the episode.
Right. So when we started out, when it was just a couple of us, so like I'm thinking back to 2022 end, actually 2023 January. We were 3 teachers and 2 admin people, and that's it. We were a family of 5, and we had just sort of started adding more hands, adding more, like, okay, we need somebody to come in and not just clean but also make props. We also need somebody to manage the kids. We also need a transport facility. We also need, so these things were getting added, right? Something as simple as when we were a 5-member, 6-member organization, every day lunch would go from my house. Because my thought was, we're all kind of alone in this city. We're all struggling, trying to keep this business up and running. You're doing 8-10 hours sometimes. You don't have time to figure out what you're going to cook for lunch and buy groceries. You know what? My cook will cook for everybody. So we just used to take an enormous dabba to work every day, and everybody would pitch in and eat that. And that became, okay, all evenings food at the Hive is food on the Hive, right? So we'll pay for it. And suddenly we started growing to a size of 20, and then it became impossible to do that, because now you're thinking about different people's dietary requirements. You're thinking about, oh, these people are not here, they're going to feel bad if we do a team lunch and they're not invited. And it's something as simple as that.
Correct. It's well intentioned but not sustainable.
Exactly. It's so well intentioned. It comes from a place of like, let me take care of you, and then you realize this is not going as planned at all. And that's just the metaphor for everything else. For everything else, right? Sometimes it's about support, sometimes it's about bonuses, sometimes it's about performance reviews. We never had a performance review system in place. I mean, it almost felt to me as someone who's working in a 5-member team, you're going to ask me whether I did my job. You can see me breaking my back trying to make this work for you. You're going to ask me how I did it?
And we're going to have a conversation about it. Like, it doesn't make sense.
That's crazy. Okay. So this was my opinion, say 3 years ago. But now it makes sense because you're not in every room.
Correct.
You're not seeing everybody's back break equally. You're not seeing the effort at a 360. It is important, I've realized, for people to feel validated.
Correct.
It's not a thing that I thought was important until very recently. I was like, but I mean, I'm here, you're here, aren't we? Wait.
You need me to actually sit down and tell you that you've done
you're good. Well, you're here. Isn't that enough?
It's interesting because in the first scenario that you painted, where 5 people, everybody's visible to everyone, you had a feedback mechanism that was so on the spot, instantaneous.
Absolutely.
Almost, right? The reflection of your work is in the other person's eyes. But as you grow, that feedback mechanism is not as strong. And so then formal channels become much more relevant and important to be, established and used. Because it's not enough that informally you say you're doing a good job if that is not reciprocated in a more formal way where people share that common information. So it becomes more important, and that's growth in an organization and growth in the way you operate.
And I've also realized that in the 5 people scenario, I would say I love you to each one of them every single day. At the end of every call, be like, okay, love you, Jayan, bye. It's literally like, it's a family, right? But now I've realized, first of all, I don't have it in me to make 20 calls every morning to say I love you to everybody. Secondly, I need to ensure that other people are saying I love you to each other as well. It can't just be me doing the job. I've also got to make room for feedback that's not as positive.
Correct.
Where I can tell you where we're going wrong or where we could be doing better without it feeling like now it's a betrayal of the trust that you have in me. So these things, I think actually the HR part of the job is the hardest part of my work. It is by far the hardest part of my work. Give me 100 classes, but don't give me like 100 people to manage.
And that's so true because, lots of entrepreneurs learn this the hard way. They think like, how hard can it be to manage people? Like, I'll just tell them what to do and off they'll do it, But it's not that simple.
Most HR platforms were built for systems. Circly was built for people. Hiring, HRIS, payroll, and compliance finally in one place. One source of truth for your entire team. AI native ATS that screens faster and surfaces the right candidates. And payroll that runs without any manual reconciliation. No more spreadsheets, no more stitching systems together.
Just your team running the way it should. Book your demo at circly.com.
And there is always those ads that go out saying, you focus on your business, we'll look after your people.
Yeah.
Right? That is a common way of attracting clients. And then you very quickly realize there is no separation between running a business and managing your people.
Yeah,
They are
it is the same thing.
heavily interlinked. And in fact, if one doesn't succeed, the other one doesn't at all.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
an entrepreneur's realization, like handling people is hard, but you have to do it.
Correct. We always struggle with this, right? The marketing advice that we always get is when we get a script to do an ad, it always opens with things like most employers are doing this wrong, or are you spending 80% of your time on your people instead of growing the business? Bring us on board and now you get that 80% time back. And it's not true, right? So we cringe and we don't do this kind of marketing because you have to value your people. You have to know that this is the hardest part of being an entrepreneur. It's managing a team and managing multiple people. And it's even more complex in the UAE because there's different nationalities, there's different communication styles, different cultures, and you have to somehow make sense of it. And nobody teaches you this.
Yeah.
And there is no school to go for this, right?
Yeah.
You can learn over experience, learn over time. But managing people is like a core part of running a business. So that, and it also kind of brings me back to my own employment when I think about it. Like if I did something good and my manager said, oh, that was good, that'd be great. But if I sat down with him or her in my formal review and they forgot about that, that would break my heart, but I've done this and this and this, and you haven't recorded it. You said it in passing rather than you've recognized that over a period of time, I've done 5 great things.
Yeah.
Therefore, I'm like a good employee.
Yeah.
So from an employee's perspective also, it's viewed so differently, right? Which is such an interesting perspective.
Absolutely.
That you don't necessarily have when you're just being an employer, because you're like, I see you, I've said good things, like know I love you and you're doing a great job.
Yeah.
Why do we have to make it so formal? But the answer is that when you do, there's a reason why it's been happening for time immemorial, I guess. Because there is value to it.
Yeah.
Now, does it have to be stringent and like you need to give a rating and, maybe all of it doesn't need to be as rigid. It can be a little more fluid. But structure, for the sake of structure, provides that clarity to everyone involved, right?
That's true. That's very, very true.
Yeah.
Very true.
What has been a hard thing that you've had to do? Like, what was your first hardest learning when you had to give feedback that was not so positive, and how did you navigate that? Because you're generally such a positive person.
That's actually the problem.
Yeah, and
that's the problem.
But we all are, right? I think nobody ever wants to sit down with someone and tell them that, look, something is not working.
Yeah.
So how did you navigate that?
So I think one of the problems that I face, and maybe many other entrepreneurs again, or people leading teams face this as well, is that your sort of general positive nature or your general kind of upbeatness in a room is confused for I don't see any flaws in the work, or I have no negative feedback to give you. Because just because I'm kind of bouncy and happy and like bouncing around the room doesn't mean that I'm not thinking and I'm not tabulating and I'm not watching and I don't have opinions and I don't have... So I think that is always a little bit difficult.
Yeah.
I think another thing that's really, really hard to do is letting go of people, whether they choose to leave or whether you choose to let them go.
True.
Is a very, very difficult experience. Sometimes I think it's harder on the employer than,
It is.
No, I should take that back. Actually, it's not, because there is just so much of pain on both sides, I think.
I don't think it's like binary one or the other. I think that both have different aspects. Like, first of all, coming to that decision to say
It's
like
so difficult.
Yeah, and nobody takes it lightly, I don't think.
Yeah, and at least me, I don't know whether I'm an overthinker, but I spend nights and nights and nights evaluating this decision over and over and over and over in my head, trying to argue it from every perspective.
Yeah.
Sometimes I look at with great envy at people who have such faith in their own decisions, that they know absolutely surely that they are right all
Yeah.
the time, because I never think I'm right all the time. I'm always arguing the opposite opinion in my own mind. So I think these are sort of tough ones.
Yeah. I think for us, we're different personalities. So we like bounce things off each other, you know? So I
Yeah.
think we're at an advantage from that perspective.
that's true.
Because when I say something and I'm like, it's a great idea, and she'll question it to say, have you thought of 1, 2, 3? And then I'm like, okay, never mind. It was a terrible idea.
It was a
right?
radical idea, Desmond, but
Yeah.
it didn't work.
I come up with these radical ideas at all times.
Yeah.
Can you think of a people decision that you made earlier in your time back in 2019, 2020 that impacts you still today?
A people decision. I think that a lot of the hiring that we do is purely based on a vibe. I know it's probably the wrong way to do it, and I'm sure there are like 150 arguments that can be made,
Yeah.
denying it. But I walk into a room and I can sit down with someone and I just feel a vibe.
Yeah.
And either I feel it or I don't feel it. And I think a vibe is just so incredibly important. There have been people who have wanted to work with a Hive with like PhDs in theater studies and incredible CVs that I just like, wow, that's so cool. But I just know it's not a vibe fit.
Yeah.
Like, I just can't cast you for the role.
Yeah.
It's like, I
it's just as
admire
simple
you,
as
but I
that.
can't hire you.
Yeah, exactly. In fact, I admire you so much that I can't hire you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But has that worked out 100% of the time is the
Almost
question?
always.
Okay.
Almost always. And I've realized that my gut instinct is almost always right.
Yeah, and I mean, look, I'm like you said, lots of people will tell you should do it one way or the other. But the important thing is it working for your business?
Yeah.
The moment it stops working for your business, then it's time to change.
Yeah.
But if it is, and you're getting talent on board and the right talent on board, and they're staying with you and they're performing, then
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely.
It's also important to say you recognize what is your hiring style. Like if
Yeah.
it's a vibe and you accept that it will work and it may not work, but this is my style. So at least you're helping yourself make
absolutely.
a decision, right?
Yeah,
So the
yeah.
consequence also you can take ownership of if it doesn't work out.
Yeah, absolutely.
And if it works out, you'll just sharpen it a little bit more.
And there have been times where it's worked out, and there have been times where the person was right, but the time was wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The season was wrong. But yeah, I'm more or less always a vibe has kind of turned out to work out for me.
Well, that's great. What do you think are the non-negotiables in your business?
Trust,
Yeah.
warmth. I think everyone who walks into the Hive needs to feel like it's a second home, which means every single person, from the person who offers them coffee when they sit down, if you're a parent, if you're a child, the teacher in the classroom,
Yeah.
and the way they greet you, to the way that you're dropped to your car, if you have to go downstairs, to the person in accounts and the way that they navigate a conversation with you around a due payment. Every single person needs
Yeah.
to feel a genuine sense of warmth and honesty in what we do, and kids first above all else.
Yeah.
It's like, forget about the profit, forget about the team. For me, it's the kids first.
yeah.
If it doesn't serve the kids, it's not something that's going to be on board.
How do you train for this? Or do you train for this? Or do you just expect that, okay, I feel a vibe, this person's warm, this person meets that criteria, and now they will be in a role in accounts and then have this?
And I've realized actually that a lot of, in my radio job, we used to have a boss, Fiona, and she was our programming head, and I would get so annoyed with her because she would have these long lunches, and every Monday the whole team would sit there for 2.5 hours eating lunch together, and I would be like, can we just go home? Like, can we discuss business already?
Yeah.
Like, why is this such an important thing?
Yeah.
And she was a person who would invite the family. We didn't just work together, right? So there was us, there was our partners, there was our children, everyone was eating at her house. It was like she was permanently mothering all of us. And
Yeah.
I'm sure that had its repercussions that were not great for many employees and many team members. But what it taught me was that a lot of culture was absorbed over those lunches and dinners. It wasn't in HR spreadsheets presented to you once a year by some random dude who'd walk in and be like, hi, I'm the head of HR. Like, who are you?
And this is your culture.
Yeah. It's like, no, that's not how it works.
Yeah.
My culture is Fiona's culture. Actually, you know what I mean?
Which is so interesting, right? Because you didn't really like it then.
Yeah, exactly.
And now you're like, hey, actually, this is what I want to do.
That's what it was. And I didn't get it then because I was, I just felt like I wanted to do more and I wanted to run faster and I wanted to discuss more business and I wanted to get more ideas on board. And I felt like I was being dragged down by this idea that we must all do it together and it was all be so loving. It's like, God. But now it's like, I get it.
Yeah.
I get it. I get why we had all those lunches.
What changed?
When it's like, my mother always used to say, when you're a mother, you will know.
realize.
Same thing. It's the same thing, right?
Yeah.
It's the same thing.
When you hire people,
When you hire people, when you lead a team, when you're trying to explain, like, who are we really at the core of it? What is this about? What's the why of the Hive? That can't be across, a once in a quarter meeting.
It has
It's
to
gotta
be
happen.
more often, more.
It has to be more heartfelt. It has to be felt. It
Yeah.
has to be felt.
You feel culture. You can't write culture.
Yeah, you can't.
And then you write what you feel rather than you write it and then ask people to feel it. That
If I had
work.
a dirham for every time I went into one of these big corporate organizations and they had their culture written on the walls, and I'm like, that's not true.
What are you talking about?
What are you talking about? I hate those like lofty mission statements for this very reason.
Yeah.
It's like no need.
Exactly. We had values that were essentially our values when we started our business, but then recently we recognized the team has grown. So we did an exercise where we created our values as a team with the team. And, we took input from all of them and, we came up with our values, which is RISE with S&K, and it stands for something, right? RISE. But now when we do our weekly huddles, we start every huddle with a values moment. We stop to think about like, how did I live the value, or how do I feel that I live the value in the week prior, right? And I was sharing this in one of our previous episodes also. And every time we're a small team ourselves, and every time everyone's like, oh no, let them go, let them go. But then once we start talking about it, you feel like crying, for starters, because the stories that they tell you about how they're able to articulate what good looks like, and they feel so connected to it. And then they feel like I've come up with this. This has not been given to me. I've developed this. So they feel a sense of ownership. And that makes such a difference. One of our clients recently, we were hiring for a team of drivers. They're a company that provides, transportation for people of determination. And so we were looking for drivers for them. And we went through an interview process. We, did all of the standard process. But the recruiter was saying how the drivers were telling her, like, you're treating us with so much respect, and, like, you're being so nice to us, and thank you so much. And she said, I know that, having a CV is not normal for them. They may not have this. They may not be comfortable with doing an interview online. So she's like, I spent extra time, walking them through it, simplifying the experience for them. And this, like, these are the stories when you hear, like, we're not in her room when she does this. So we don't know this is happening, but it gives you a moment to stop and appreciate what you have done yourself and recognize yourself, and I think bringing, like you said, culture, bringing that to the forefront, having a long lunch where you discuss things like this is what gives, hopefully, others purpose and meaning of coming to work as well, right?
Yeah. And, to build on the story, one of the drivers, his brother came and saw us. His sister sent us a message. It became such a family thing.
And for no reason, like his brother just dropped by the office.
Just dropped a passenger.
Casually dropped by the office.
And just said thank you. And that was it. But this is how, like, our recruitment, when we talk about how you recruit, we recruit for so many clients, right? And we do establish a process and things. But it's not limited to the process. The process just gives you the base guidelines, but you build on it. And that's what the team does. Like, they know what the foundation looks like, but they're not limited to the foundation. And that is, I think, what every employee needs to, contribute to. There are those kinds that, will look good on paper, but are very much process driven and limit themselves to the process. And there are those that are members of our team, and probably in your team as well, that look at a process like, okay, this is my starting point and this is how I can develop further.
Grow it from there.
Yeah. So that's that's how you define culture. And that's how, like, your leadership style comes from those things. And that would be interesting to know, Malavika, from your side, like when you started versus to where you are now. Has there been a change? Has there been an evolution in leadership?
Yeah, I think I was a very different person in 2019. I think now, with the number of people who have joined the team and the number of experiences that you've accumulated, I kind of realized that I don't need to say everything that's on my mind all the time. I can measure my words and measure my feedback, and also I've realized that I can't put that much of onus of being my fulfillment on the Hive, that I need to kind of diversify the portfolio of heart. I need to have other things I care about and other places where I put that energy, because otherwise it just becomes too much weight for the organization to handle. I think also another thing is that I sound like Mel Robbins when I say this, but when people show you who they are, see it for what it is. Let them kind of show you who they are.
And believe it, basically. Don't
yeah.
think like, oh, this is just now, something will change.
Yeah.
Or
I think
can
that's
change
important. I can change them, or being so wrapped up in your own vision for the person that you're not seeing what the other person is actually capable of. I think these are like
Or
little
not
things,
capable of.
or not capable of, as the case may be. So I think these are important lessons. They're not things that you can put down on a tracker.
Yeah.
But it's important.
Yeah. That's why we have a podcast, so we can talk about it.
For everything you can't put on a tracker.
You have a podcast.
I think, Oni, where you mentioned something very important, right? A lot of people say, I hire for potential.
Yeah.
It's like, but the potential that you see is what you have a vision for that person.
Correct.
Have you engaged that person to see if that's the potential they want to work on? Because if that is not, aligned, then that potential just stays as a fictitious point of things. It's not coming into life.
Yeah. Plus, you have unfair expectations of someone who's like, I don't even want to do that.
It's like, this is not my dream, it's your dream for me. It's not the same thing. I've come to realize that. I also think that what someone's idea of excellence is very important to me. Like, what is...
Oh, yes. We love that.
What do you really see as excellent? And are you willing to call out something that's mediocre as mediocre? Because I think sometimes what happens is that you start to believe your own billboard, which is very... that to me is like, you don't want that.
Yeah.
You don't want someone who's believing the... Yeah. Exactly. And if you're able to kind of see... For me, it's giving you feedback is only to see whether your own internal barometer has told you the same things that my barometer is telling me. And are you aware of it? Like, are you aware of where the mistakes were made and how things could have been better, or what processes could have changed, or what excellence looks like, or what great looks like? And are you in alignment with me on that? And then how you do that, of course, within certain parameters and guidelines is great, but I need to know that you care about excelling.
Yeah. I love this, because I think that, right, the word excellence is not fully understood.
Yeah.
Employers or business owners, you obviously want excellence in everything, but we don't sometimes take time to define what excellence looks like. Yeah. Like, what's a great job? What's a job done?
Yeah.
And what's a not great job, right? And we struggle with that as well, right?
Yeah, all the time, because I think excellence for us has a different layout of what it looks like. And excellence, that if we don't articulate that, then the person who you're expecting excellence out of doesn't really understand what the roadmap is, or what's the layout like. And I think you, in the process of feedback and in other mechanisms, or in the way you deal and lead people, you need to be able to clearly state that.
Yeah.
So that there is common understanding of
Yeah.
what excellence looks like.
Yeah.
Otherwise, one person's thinking they're excellent, but in your eyes, they're, doing a job.
Yeah.
But it's important to get that connection.
Yeah. I think of all the times like, someone has sent us a piece of work and it's not within our team per se, but even externally, like you're working with a service provider, for instance, and they send you something and you're like, really, did you feel it in your heart that this is a good piece of work that I should send? Did you not look at this? It is so beyond underwhelming.
Yeah.
Like, why would you not take it upon yourself to say, when you get an opportunity, just do the best you can?
Yeah.
And not everyone is wired like that.
Yeah, I've come to understand that actually the hard way.
Yeah, and I think we are still learning that, right? So we have to remind each other to say, look, when you're asking someone, it's like saying, hey, can you decorate a house?
Yeah.
If that person's never been to a beautiful spaces, they're not going to know what a beautiful house looks like.
Yeah.
So they will do what they think is a beautiful house, which is maybe very functional. But your definition of beautiful house is just so different.
That's true.
So,
Yeah.
we also don't recognize that. We've been now in the work world for over 20 years. So our experience has taught us different standards. We've
true.
seen what excellence looks
Can look
like. But someone who hasn't, they're just not going to know. Like in their minds, this is excellent. But of course, you look at it and you're like, oh, not really. And so that is such a, like, I'm so glad you brought that up because I think it's like a learning for us as well.
You use the word underwhelming and it already triggered because I remember a specific incident of sorts where I had to give feedback to the person that, gave the work. And I said, this is very underwhelming. And that just took a totally to how is it underwhelming?
How can you say this
How
to
can
me?
you say this to me? I've been doing this for the past X number of years. I was like, but the output is the output. I have to give feedback because how are we going to improve?
Yeah.
But it never went beyond that. But it's important, right? That the word articulates something that you're trying to convey. And if you're resistant to it, then like the one that you picked up in Mel, like that's telling you something about that person. So it's time to accept and, move on. Like we won't work well with each other because we don't have that common understanding of excellence.
Yeah. And I think it's okay to also be the one disappointing someone. Like if feedback is not received in the way it's intentioned, it's okay. That it was not intended to hurt the person.
Yeah.
It was just feedback. Take it and say like, how can I do better?
True that.
Right?
True that.
So going back now that you've been in business and you've had all of these lessons and you've had all of these amazing experiences and, learning experiences, what advice would you give to someone who's at your starting point?
I think pick your team well. Pick your team well, I think, is an important one. I think the kind of ground rules you set in place early on really start to tell as the company grows bigger and bigger, right? I think those core values are like super important. So pay attention to and be intentional about the things that you do in the beginning stages, because it may seem like, oh, it's just one client, it's just one employee, it's just one rule, it's just one exception. But these things really, like, they are magnified as the product gets bigger and bigger and bigger. That rule and that culture gets bigger and bigger as well.
Yeah.
So make sure that you're intentional about it. Not to say that you'll make no mistakes. I'm sure you will, as we all do. And I think if you want to be right all the time, you don't want to be an entrepreneur. You're going to be wrong 100 times a day.
You can be a librarian in the
Maldives. Then you can be a librarian in the Maldives.
See what I did there.
100% chance of doing an amazing job all the time. I fail about 100 times a
all you have
day.
to do.
Yeah, I think that's it. Like, you gotta have the guts to fail. You gotta have the guts to suck at something new every time.
Yeah.
You've got to dare to like go to those uncharted territories and just mess it up
And learn from it.
and learn from it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And be okay with the fact that you're never going to get 100 on 100.
Yeah.
You're never going to get 100 on 100. You're
Yeah.
never going to have a
And
day where everything works
works.
out perfectly well.
Yeah, that's so true, Ashley. Just this morning, my dad's been unwell recently, and we were checking in on our parents, and my mom's like, I said good morning, and then I said, is it a good morning? And she said, yes, it is. We're doing well. And I was like, you know what? That one thing is fine. And now I don't care what happens.
Yeah.
So you have to also know like what is important. And I think when you become an employer, like these learning journeys get you there.
Yeah.
You sort of like filter to say, this is important. This I can deal with if something goes wrong.
Yeah, well, I hope your dad has a good day
Oh,
today.
thank
And
you.
tomorrow. And the day after.
Yeah.
I know what that feels like.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's a tough one.
All part of your day life, right? As an entrepreneur, you have family to look after, and you have
And that
employees'
doesn't
families.
stop either. Like,
Yeah.
you know.
Like everything's not perfect while you go and, set up your business. There's all of these multiple moving parts. And then you have to go and look after a team.
Someone else's.
And be there for their
and their families.
and
as
their
well.
families,
families,
exactly.
Yeah.
And my last question for you, Malavika, is where does everyone find you and the Hive?
Oh, you can find us on Instagram. We're live at Hive, LIVEATHIVE. We have a beautiful theater. It's called Live at Play. Come by and bring your events to us. And I'm Malavika Varadhan. If you follow any one of us, you'll figure out the other two.
Thank you so much for having this conversation with
Thank
us.
you.
We really enjoyed it. It's always
Thank you for having me.
You're so welcome.
High energy and like
Hive energy.
high energy. There you go.
Good one.
Are you in marketing?
And that's a wrap. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Well
That was
done.
easy.
If you stayed with us till the very end, thank you so much. It really means a lot. But before you go, a small ask. Turns out that 86% of you watch but haven't subscribed yet. Subscribing helps us keep these conversations going and bring you more insights like this. So please hit that subscribe button. If there's someone you'd love for us to feature on the podcast, drop their names in the comments below. And if you're a founder with a story to tell of building something that has lasted, we'd love to hear from you. Thank you again for being here, and see you in the next episode.